I just love today's episode for so many reasons. First and foremost, because the insights that we're going to talk about today are things that people overlook all of the time, not only for self-healing, but also transformation and transforming patterns and happiness and just life at a deeper level. So I love that. And also, I absolutely love our beautiful volunteer. She's just happy and positive and determined to really heal. And so she's been struggling with MS and was diagnosed many years ago with MS and is really going, okay, well, how do I heal from that? And that's what she's looking at. But just the insights were so profound on so many levels. And so that's where we're going today. Now, a little bit of a backstory. I mentioned that she's been struggling with MS, our beautiful volunteer. Her name is Katherine. And what I love, though, is she's got this positive attitude and she's really determined to heal herself. Now, as soon as I connected with her, the very first thing that came up was the energy of her mother, basically. That was the first thing, was exactly that. Now, as soon as I brought that topic up of her mom and that connection to illness, ultimately what surfaced was that Katherine's mother also had MS. And so it was this connection with the self-image because there was part of her who identified as being like her mother. Now, let's unpack that for a moment, because even when it's transformation and not related to healing, but just life in general, so often people will have mixed feelings. And this is what I mean. Is that if you think about a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, let's say they get a compliment that says something like this, says, "You look just like your mother," or "You look just like your dad." Now, at 4 or 5 years old, that can feel like a huge compliment. You know, a child wants to grow up and be just like mom or just like dad or get that compliment. And what can happen is that information gets stored in the subconscious mind. And I'll see that all of the time. Then, of course, for a lot of people, they start to grow older and they maybe get into their teens. And then at that point, it's like, I never want to be like my mom or my dad or whatnot. And that comes up. And so what happens is that at a deeper level in the subconscious mind, both of those patterns exist. And then what can happen, of course, is that can play out through life. And maybe you found yourself before where you found yourself doing something like your mother or father, or have you ever seen this before? If you're somebody who has children, maybe you've seen where you might be doing something or you look over and you see one of your children doing something that's exactly like you, where they're doing something like just like their father or whatnot. Maybe you've seen that in some way because so often these patterns are hiding and this programming is hiding at a deeper level. And so that's the insight. And that's one of the insights that I really love about today's session is that as I was working with Katherine, that was the very first thing that came up was a self-image, and that throughout Katherine's life, her mom struggled with MS. And there was just these underlying feelings of not only seeing herself like her mom, so that was like a level 4, but also this feeling of really wanting to be like her mom, which was like a level 9 at a deeper level. And then simultaneously, these strong feelings of really not wanting to be anything like her mom. So that mixture, those mixtures of emotions. And so that's one thing. Now, I love that, again, I mentioned not only for healing, because of course that's crucial, but also for life transformation, where so often people are trying to change their lives and yet they're stuck in similar patterns as their parents and they just don't realize it. So that is powerful. Now, when we look at it towards healing, I want to unpack that because so often this is a key component that people will miss. And the way that we'll want to look at it is like this. So a lot of times people will think when it comes to healing, they, think about all of the positive aspects. They think about affirmations and visualization or positive thinking or whatnot. And they're really working on bringing those in. And you can tell Katherine, our volunteer, she's really been working on a positive mindset. You could tell that. And yet these things were stuck at a deeper level. And so what we want to do is understand the depth of transformation and healing. And a simple way to think about it is like this. Is that when it comes to healing, it's not just positive emotions or negative emotions. And the illustration that you hear me use or the example that I use all the time is this, is if you think about somebody with severe PTSD or severe trauma, you could think about somebody who was in the military or an officer or any person who unfortunately has suffered from trauma. If you think about it, they can have all of this trauma and it doesn't mean they're physically sick. And so we can see that negative emotions can definitely impact a person, but they don't always equate to illness. And so what I found in my work, a huge breakthrough discovery, was understanding that it takes specific factors in the mind. Those specific factors are key. And so when we identify those, that's where the change happens. And so the analogy you hear me use all of the time is like this, is the multiple emotions or multiple ingredients. Is if you think about somebody who wants to make cake. If they only have flour, they can't make cake. But if they have flour and they mix it with other ingredients like eggs and butter and other ingredients, or vegan eggs and butter and other ingredients, now they can make cake. And if they change the ingredients, they have a completely different recipe. And so ultimately, when we think about mind-body healing and creating that transformation, there's a recipe that's going on in the inside. And so often people don't realize that the self-image can play a role in that. And so that's ultimately, if you know my story, I took years trying to figure out, not only after healing myself, but going through and really identifying what are the key components that create a shift in when somebody's able to heal themselves. And so these underlying factors are so important, and that's ultimately what came up with our beautiful volunteer. And what I love is that, just as soon as I connected for the session with her, that was the very first thing was, okay, this identity with her mom, and we can see why it was so important, knowing that her mom also has MS or had MS as well. And so that's the insight that I want to invite you to really think about, is that creating that transformation in your life. Yes, positive thinking can be important and all of that for sure. And addressing deeper factors in the mind are so key, especially if you think about somebody who, as a youngster, wants to be just like mom or dad. And then as they get older, they do not want to be like mom and dad. Those mixed emotions at a deeper level can impact you. So just food for thought. I love the insight, because you can just see the deeper level of change that really needs to occur to create a radical shift. Now, of course, by the way, there were additional insights like connection to hardship and other things that we worked on. So if you want to really listen to that full session where I worked with Katherine, you can click the link in the show notes and you can hear there's even more additional insights. But I just wanted to share with you that highlight a few key insights. So there's several more insights if you'd like to listen to that. And if you are somebody who wants a deeper level of understanding of healing in general, there's also a link in the show notes for a free training. So that is available as well. And as always, I want to ask you, if you can take just a quick moment to hit the share button on this episode. Share it with somebody you love, somebody you care about, or somebody you don't even know. Because truly, the more that every single person in our world feels healthy and happy and loved and loving and empowered, the better this world is for all of us. And so please do take just a quick moment to hit the share button. And please do make a point to have an incredible rest of your day. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. We'll see you there.